You're listening to The Christopher Scott Show. Here's Chris.
Well, today I'm going to talk about the car. No, not the car that you drive. I'm talking about the combat action ribbon. It's a symbol of combat service, obviously, but what is the meaning of it and why would we talk about it? You know, it's interesting to me that there's a debate now on how to handle and respond to the combat action ribbon. When I got mine, I didn't even really think about it at all, actually. Never even really crossed my mind. Now I guess there's people out there that are using it like a weapon, so now it's something that we got to talk about. Some people are acting like it's a freaking Medal of Honor or something like that. Hey, it's an award that's given out like many. It has a special meaning to it, but it has its proper place all the same. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. A couple other things that came up. A couple interesting military headlines, military-related headlines. The people, I guess, that are interested in getting a chance to get one of these combat action ribbons, they might just get that chance. Iran's making threats against the United States. I don't think there's much to that. They're having some serious problems over there. Might end up being a good thing. I don't know. North Korea, maybe dismantling nukes, but who knows? Trump, he's still talking about a military parade. I'll have to say I haven't heard from one military person that thinks that's a good idea. I'll give you my feelings on that. You can take that as you may. And then this was kind of interesting, making its rounds in my circles of my Marine Corps affiliation. Antifa protesters at Berkeley vandalized a Marine Corps recruiting center, broke into a Marine Corps office, did some damage in there. Why is it that Antifa's always centered around Berkeley? Kind of makes you wonder, right? I got a couple theories on that. You can take a look at these articles on my news blog at ChristopherScottShow.com if you're interested in reading a little bit further. So, Iran comes out, makes these threats, I guess, via Twitter, because that's the way we make threats these days, via Twitter. And they come out and they make this statement about, I don't know, something to the effect of, doesn't really matter. Then they throw in mother of all wars. I'm going to say that if you have to prop up a threat of war by calling it the mother of all wars, you probably shouldn't be making threats. But, you know, I don't know that Iran's going to take any advice from me either. Time magazine had an article detailing how Iran set up these German front companies to buy printing equipment so they could print counterfeit Yemeni banknotes, money, cash, and use that money in turn to buy who knows what. I just saw that it looks like Germany, I guess, froze some bank accounts of Iran or something like that ahead of additional sanctions coming from the United States. Who knows what they're using this counterfeit money for? Probably to buy weapons. Kind of interesting when you think about it. It's kind of interesting, right, that a country, talk about meddling. Imagine you had another country, and who knows, it probably happens. Another country where they set up printing presses and were printing fake dollars, you know, on some kind of a large scale. You could really do a lot of damage to a country by doing that. You could destabilize the currency. All kinds of crazy things could happen. So I don't know. Who knows what's going on there? But it was kind of interesting when you think about these clandestine, deep, you know, military operations that they're in there making money so they could buy weapons. Crazy how the military will get so creative. Iran, I don't know, there's talks now of civil war in Iran. Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time. It's crazy over there. There's like no stability at all. North Korea still in the news. The United States warning other countries not to violate the trade sanctions. You know, and here's what kind of strikes me about that. Wouldn't North Korea be in a hurry to get those sanctions lifted? Like, wasn't that like the whole reason, supposedly, that they wanted to get rid of their nukes in the first place so that they could get out from underneath this economic disaster that was created by the sanctions? I guess not. I guess they're not in that much of a hurry. That's kind of weird to me. What's really going on? Who knows? But all indications are that it's moving towards peace. And, like you hear all these different reports that they're getting rid of the nukes, they're not getting rid of the nukes. U.S. intelligence says, quite frankly, my whole idea of U.S. intelligence is a little skewed after all the reports that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, which it turns out were more than likely American munitions that we had given them in the Iran-Iraq war, and the whole thing was designed to cover up the fact that they had our weapons. I'm not getting off on that whole tangent. And that's not a big conspiracy theory, by the way. You go digging into that whole issue of Gulf War syndrome and some of the impact that it had on Marines and soldiers over there. And there's a good indication that a lot of it potentially came from American munitions. So now when I hear this talk about, the U.S. intelligence saying that North Korea is actually building more nuclear weapons, I always kind of stop in my tracks and think, you know what? Until I see some video of somebody screwing on a nuclear warhead, I don't know that I'm ready to believe that. But all indications from the actions of South Korea, some of the other countries, seems to be that they're moving in the direction of peace. This was an article published by The Atlantic, which, if you know anything about The Atlantic, they're definitely not a pro-Trump publication. The headline read, North Korea talks have entered the realm of small victories. I don't know. Is getting rid of a couple nuclear bombs a small victory? I wouldn't say so. They said recent activities at Soha, which were first reported by the website 38 North, do suggest that Kim may be making good on his offer to Trump and Singapore to scrap the site. Experts believe the satellite launch station has played a role not just in North Korea's civilian space program. North Korea's civilian space program, huh? I bet that's pretty... Could you imagine if North Korea put somebody on the moon or Mars before we did? But they say it's also its development of intercontinental ballistic missiles that could ultimately carry nuclear weapons to the United States. The moves, coupled with the news this week that South Korea is experimenting with scaling back its military presence at the border with North Korea, and that North Korean and U.S. governments are haggling over how to return the remains of American soldiers killed in the North Korean War, indicate that nuclear talks with North Korea are still at an early and fragile stage of tentative trust building. Well, I mean, I guess that's one way I put it. Don't at some point you have to build up a layer of trust. They say it's far from the grand visions of peace and disarmament that Kim and Trump conjured in Singapore. I thought it was a pretty historical event. I don't know why it's not played up a little bit more. You know, if Obama or even Jimmy Carter had gone over there and done that, there would have been this... Heck, Al Sharpton could have went over and done it, and they would have made him the Time Magazine Man of the Year. Trump doesn't. They're like, we'll believe it when we see it. Not such a big deal. If it had been, say, I don't know, Barbara Bush even, Time Magazine, everybody would have been all over it. It would have been all over the news. Who else is big? Could have done it that the media would have bought into? I don't know. It could have been this Cortez girl that's running on the... If Bernie Sanders had done it, they would, Bernie Sanders negotiates peaceful agreement that saves the universe. Trump does it, they're like, it's probably a lie. I'm just saying. What do they say? As reports of North Korea's ongoing work on its nuclear program, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo had testy meetings in Pyongyang earlier this month. Have made clear as well we have now entered into a period of stasis, setbacks, and small victories. Whatever. I don't know why I even looked at The Atlantic. So Trump's still talking about a military parade. That's probably more exciting for the newspapers than peace in North Korea. Let me just break this down real simple, okay? Military parades suck. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but they're just not fun for the people that participate in them. And I know that some of my friends that listen to this show are going to beat me up over this. Look, if you enjoyed them, great. I was only ever in one, in all fairness. One public parade. I've been in plenty of, I don't even know what you would call them. I guess you'd still call them military parades on base. But I just never had a good time with that. It just wasn't something that I got into. Let me tell you how military parades work for the people involved, all right? The first people that are going to arrive, let's say the parade is scheduled to start at 2 p.m. That's probably not when you would start a parade. You'd probably start more like 10 a.m., all right? The first people that are going to get to the parade deck are probably going to get there at like 2 a.m. I'm not kidding. And like the bulk of the people would start arriving at about 4 a.m. You know why? Because it takes forever to get that many people together. You're going to march a couple thousand Marines, sailors, soldiers, whatever. I don't know if the Air Force marches in anything. No disrespect there, Air Force. I just never seen Air Force really do any close order drill. But hey, I'm sure that somebody does in the Air Force. I'm just having fun, all right? Don't get all ripped if you were in the Air Force or know somebody that was in the Air Force, all right? So you're going to get there like 10 hours before the thing starts. You're going to stand in formation with boots and gear and, in some cases, a helmet that weighs about 45 pounds. And you're going to march around with this thing. I don't know. The whole thing is incredibly uncomfortable. And I know I probably sound like I'm whining, but I'm just telling you it's the worst. I think I'd rather go to the gas chamber for 6 hours than go through a stinking military parade. Let North Korea have the parade. They have more to celebrate. Let's North Korea and South Korea hold a joint parade. That's something that I would be excited about. I think it would be fun to watch. Trump could go. They could fly a couple of F-18s overhead. It would be fantastic. We could send over NFL players, put them on the North Korean side, show them how Americans really act, let them get a little taste of that, let them kneel there for the North Korean anthem, see how the North Koreans respond to that. The whole thing, it would be like a big party if we did that. All right, that's enough of that. And then this last story that popped up, which actually first popped up in my Facebook news feed. I hate saying that. It disturbs me to even say it. It's the truth, though. What do you want me to tell you? A friend of mine who was in the Army actually posted it and tagged me, and it's the only reason I knew that it popped up. This past weekend, there were some Antifa protesters, I don't know, doing whatever it is that Antifa does out there in California. And they broke in and vandalized the Marine Corps recruiting office around Berkeley. So it got me to thinking, Antifa's been kind of quiet. I haven't really dug into what it is that they do, who they are. That's my question, really. Who and what is Antifa? And I don't mean the group. I mean these people. Are these people with jobs that do this stuff after hours? Or what is that? Where do these people come from? I'm going to tell you right now, I got a theory on this, and I'll bet you sooner or later it's going to come out. I'll bet you somebody's paying them, and I'm going to bet you that it's money being funneled from college professors out there in California, probably somehow connected with the teachers' union. It's just my hypothesis. I don't want to end up like InfoWars here getting shut down for spreading fake news. I'll tell you why I say that, and you can put this together on your own. What the police did out there after this protest, they actually ended up publishing publicly photographs of some of these Antifa people that were protesting, that got arrested. And all of a sudden, all these professors from these different California schools came out arguing that, you can't do that. That's immoral. Why is it immoral? They're out there in the streets breaking stuff, destroying public property. Oh, but we can't tell anybody who they are. That has to be a secret. But it struck me. I was wondering, I'm thinking to myself, don't tell me that there's people that just wake up and go, man, I'm going to go get a couple of my buddies and we're going to go down there to Berkeley and we're going to break some stuff up. I don't see it happening like that. I don't know what kind of accent that was that I just gave you. That was my 27-year-old still living at mom's house accent. Who else has the time to do this kind of stuff? You're telling me that people that are working have ambitious careers that they're going to wake up and go march in the streets and start breaking stuff? I don't think so. I'm going to say that somebody's paying them, or at the very least that somebody's encouraging them, helping them organize. There's somebody or some people that are at the center of this. Who and why would do that? I don't know. Who knows what's really going on? But did you ever notice how much of it seems to revolve around Berkeley? And then all of a sudden it's these different college professors that are going to jump to their defense. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I guarantee you that the cops in California, they know who these people are. Not only do they know who these people are, but they know who's given them the idea to do this. I don't know. Anyway, there was no Marines in the office, of course, because Antifa's a bunch of weak clowns, and I don't think they'd have the guts to go to a Marine Corps office while there was actually Marines inside. So they wait till it's closed down. So, big deal. I'm not all riled up about it. You know what, Antifa? You want to break up a recruiting office? Okay. So what did you prove? Nothing. You're not proving anything in anything they're doing. Whatever. Maybe the people in Berkeley should get a combat action ribbon. Everybody wants excitement. Everybody wants to be a protester these days. I'll tell you what, it's not so great when you're getting shot at. Things get a little different. So that brings me to the question of the day. What is the meaning of the combat action ribbon? Some people say it's a coveted badge of honor. I don't know if I agree with the coveted part. I do hold my combat action ribbon in high esteem. By the way, it's only an award worn by the Marine Corps, the Navy, and the Coast Guard, and that's only if the Coast Guard is attached to the Navy and they meet certain criteria. The ribbon itself is a very bold red, blue, and gold ribbon with very wide stripes. And those of us who know it, know what it is. We never miss it. Most of us know it as the CAR for short. And to be awarded a CAR, there's a simple eligibility requirement. Basically, you have to get shot at. That's not so hard to do, is it? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to get that. Satisfactory performance under enemy fire, direct exposure to an IED, and certain special operations. That's the criteria. So basically, if you get shot at, you get a CAR. That's how it works. You could get a Purple Heart for being wounded in service and still not get a CAR. That means basically that it's not for people that accidentally get shot or bombed, or for people that didn't serve in active combat necessarily. They could have still gotten injured, but they might get other awards, but they wouldn't necessarily get the combat action ribbon. There's only 19 conflicts that are recognized conflicts eligible for a combat action ribbon. It doesn't mean that necessarily it's not awarded outside of those conflicts, because it is, but those are the only 19 recognized conflicts. So that's what it is. But that doesn't answer the question of what does it mean? What does it represent? And this is where the problems come into play. See, there's no manual or general orders for the meaning of the CAR or how to act if you have or don't have a CAR or anything like that. And there's no guidance to really say what it represents. They tell you how to get it, what the eligibility requirements are. But that doesn't really give you an idea what the meaning is. There's nobody to tell anybody that. No military guidance. Nobody giving orders on it. So all this has caused a little bit of a divide, which personally I can't really relate to, but it does get talked about at least a little bit. And the problem is that some people have it, some people don't. And there's some people that say that the people who don't have it are being disrespected, and there's some people that have it that think that somehow they've provided a higher level of service. That's like saying that somebody who has a Purple Heart provided a higher level of service than somebody who didn't. Somebody who has a Medal of Honor provided a higher level of service. I don't really look at all that way. You get somebody who's got a Medal of Honor. They did something pretty spectacular to be respected, for sure. But I don't know that it, changes the degree of service necessarily. I mean, you could go on and on with that. I was talking to a buddy of mine a week or so ago, and he was talking about people that hated the Marine Corps when they were in, and then they get out and they've got all the flags and all the bumper stickers. This is a common thing in the Marine Corps. And one of the guys that was like that, quite frankly, was me. I couldn't wait to get out. And quite frankly, I didn't really talk about it a whole lot for about 25 years. It wasn't until I went to the 25-year reunion for my unit that I really felt more comfortable. And it wasn't even that I felt comfortable. I didn't really think about it. I got out. It was a part of my life that I wanted to put behind me, and I did. And then we had the 25-year reunion. It was one of, if not the most incredible event of my life. And I felt differently about it. I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? I'm not getting into that whole thing today. I think I've shared some of that story before, but you can find stories, getting back to this divide, if you will, with the car, no car debate. You can find stories where young Marines with cars have voiced some concern over senior Marines who say had 10, 15, 20 years of service and they didn't have a combat action ribbon. And so they question why somebody with that kind of time and service never deployed. That part I can kind of get a little bit. If you come home from serving, it doesn't have to be, but 2-3 combat tours, and you've been deployed that long, and you come back as a corporal in the Marine Corps, and there's some gunnery sergeant or first sergeant or say captain or something like that that's barking orders at you, and you're thinking, man, I have this combat action ribbon. This guy's barking at me. I don't know. But, Marines look for reason to get ticked off, so I don't know. And then, you hear these stories of some Marines that they develop a feeling of guilt for never deploying. And I don't know, that's kind of a shame in my world, too. There's a small movement of guys that having trouble coming to terms with the guilt of not deploying during a time when so many Marines did. There's also a problem of some units that are still in active zones, by the way, that aren't being awarded combat action ribbons, so they kind of feel like they're being slighted, I guess. I never thought about all this stuff when I was in, 28, 29 years ago now. So anyway, let me see if I can help put some of this all to rest a little bit. And let me start by telling you my own combat action ribbon story. All right. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17. It was peacetime, 1988. I had no ambitions of going into combat. I remember a family friend telling me, yeah, you join in at a good time. You get to see the world. You get some experience, and it's peacetime. You don't have anything to worry about. And when I first signed up, I just wanted to get away from home. That was my whole agenda. That was my whole real desire. And when I originally signed up, I signed up under this electronics contract. I signed up for a guaranteed job in electronics. It was a 6-year contract with a very nice bonus at the time, a certain guaranteed rank. It was a very, very nice deal at that time. And I had signed the contract. I was ready to go. I was set to leave, I believe, in October of 1988. And then I decided that I couldn't wait that long. Crazy when I think back on it. I decided I wanted to leave early. And so I went back to the recruiter, and the recruiter said, yeah, you can leave earlier. You don't have to go in open contract. And I said, well, if I'm qualified for the electronics program, wouldn't the Marine Corps logically put me back into that? Yeah, of course they will, Chris. Yeah, I was using a different kind of logic than the Marine Corps. Well, I ended up at Camp Lejeune for Motor T School. Well, motor transport, motor vehicle operator school, I wouldn't put that up there as the most exciting, ambitious thing that anybody would ever set their sights to. Not that I was particularly unhappy about it, but it just was kind of neither here nor there. I found it to be a little bit boring in a sense, although the school itself was pretty cool. You get to do some pretty exciting things with the military vehicles. I got done school, and I got orders to go to Hawaii with the 3rd Marines there. And I ended up with a unit called Alpha Battery 1st Battalion 12th Marines, which is an artillery battery. And of course, I would be with the battery driving gun trucks, towing howitzers, and then eventually I would drive an ammo truck loaded with this artillery ordnance that would supply the cannons. And it was a pretty cool experience working, definitely interesting working with the cannoneers, the artillery unit there. They're a different breed, all their own. Lots of stories to be told about all that. But I feel like I was part of the battery. I don't consider myself separate of that. And about a year and a half into my enlistment, we deployed to Okinawa, Japan, which was an incredible experience too, by the way. Definitely hardcore. Prior to that, I had volunteered for something called MPS duty. MPS duty, and the whole reason I volunteered was because it gave me an opportunity to go to Guam. That's the only reason I did it. What the MPS duty is, it's the system that the Marine Corps had. I would imagine they still have, if not this exact system, something similar. It's called the Maritime Prepositioning System. The Marine Corps has, or had, whatever it is, 4 fleets of 4 ships each, strategically located around the world. And what it's designed to do, on those 4 ships, there's 4 sets of these around the world, each of those fleets has enough combat gear of everything you could imagine, from Band-Aids to bullets, meals to uniforms, everything in between, to supply a Marine brigade for 30 days. And the idea is that they could fly a Marine brigade anywhere in the world within 24 hours, marry them up with the ships, and they could hit the beach ready to go. It's a pretty powerful system. So I volunteered for that so I could go to Guam, which was another incredible experience, by the way. I got to go there a couple of times. Well, little did I know that it would get called up. We got back from Japan. I believe we got back from Japan. I might have my dates a little off. I think Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait on August 2nd. I believe we got back from Japan on August 4th or something like that. And something like that, like August 8th, I was on my way to Saudi Arabia. We flew into Singapore, and the ships were there to meet us, and from there we sailed to Saudi Arabia. And during the course of my time over there, we spent about 2 months getting shelled by Iraqi artillery. We did nighttime fire missions on the border before the ground war had officially begun. There was as much fake news then as there is now. We're listening to BBC radio, taking Iraqi artillery fire, and they're talking about how the ground war had not yet begun. Yeah, it's interesting to live something like that. We fought at the Battle of Khafji, which is a story in itself. We breached the minefields, crossed the border, and basically helped liberate the country of Kuwait. All total, I spent 8.5 months deployed. And that duty earned me and my Alpha brothers the Combat Action Ribbon. So, that's my story. Does the Combat Action Ribbon mean something to me? Yes, it does. Does it somehow set those of us apart from people that don't have it? Well, yes and no. I have kind of a different perspective on this to read that I found pretty interesting. This is from unprecedentedmediocrity.com. And it's a blog by Marine veteran Jeff Edwards, who's a fantastic writer. I actually communicated with him last week, and unfortunately, due to the change in Facebook algorithms, he's not currently keeping this blog active, but you can go on there, unprecedentedmediocrity.com, and all of his articles up there. This guy is really a fantastic, entertaining writer. And he wrote an article titled Settling the Combat Action Ribbon Debate Once and for All. And this was an article that actually appeared in 2015, and it was written by Jeff in response to an article that appeared in the Marine Corps Times. So this has been going on a little while, this whole debate. And here's what Jeff Edwards wrote. So the Marine Corps Times ran an article this week with a picture of a combat action ribbon, henceforth referred to as CAR, and the title, No Car, No Respect, Ending the Ribbon Rack Divide. That was the article that was ran by the Marine Corps Times. Jeff goes on to write, now, for those that don't know, the CAR is what is bestowed upon a Marine after participating in actual ground combat. You see, you could be deployed to Iraq, spend your time on a fortified base pushing paper, and no CAR. Or you could have the enemy fire upon you, you fire back, and viola CAR. That's an oversimplified explanation, as I couldn't tell you word for word the criteria, but hopefully you get the gist. Bottom line, it's a valued ribbon in the Marine Corps, and it's led some to believe that after 14 years of war, if you don't have one, then you don't rate. When somebody in the Marine Corps says you don't rate, it's kind of a way of saying that you don't have status to comment on something. So he goes on to say, well, since I know the Marine Corps relies on obscure blogs such as this one to settle such debates, that's him being funny. Let me help out the Commandant and do so. He's talking about the Commandant of the Marine Corps. Nice that he's given himself that honor. Way to go, Jeff. Impressive. After all, he is a regular reader of the blog. Jeff is claiming that the Commandant is a regular reader of his blog, Unprecedented Mediocrity. Oh, he comes clean. He says, that's a lie. I don't know that at all, actually. Jeff, I would say that, of course, the Commandant reads your blog, man. All right, who knows? So then he says, of course, a car matters. Let me read this to you a little bit. I don't think it'll take too long, but I don't want to keep interrupting it. This is Jeff's words, not mine. Look, every Marine wants a car. Love it or hate it, it's true. You don't join the Marines in any capacity if at some level you don't really want to experience combat. Yes, even the Pogue admin boot dreams of somehow delivering a government-issued black pen under heavy artillery bombardment. The Marine Corps makes no qualms about who they are and always have been, namely a life-taking organization that you join it for that reason alone. Consequently, it is congruent that the service should have an award such as the CAR to recognize those whom have actually done so. Now, I don't want you to take this statement as some intentional slight against persons other than grunts, aka pogues. I made clear in my article, a pogue by any other name, that all jobs in the Marines play their role in war. However, I also said that the Marines should and rightly do glorify the infantry. It is who we are, and the Marines should take no shame in that, but pogues can still earn a car as well. Thus, it is much the same with the car. Yes, the Marines should make some sort of deal about those whom have actually done that which the entire Marine Corps exists to do in the first place. It makes Chesty proud and the hippies sad. I call it a win-win. This is what I love about the guy's writing. You know, he's candid, honest, and it's funny. He said, that being said, be cool, Marines, be cool. Honestly, every last one of you, whether you be with Carr or not, Dakota Meyer and Kyle Carpenter are living Marine legends with medals of honor, and yet they act with more humility than some car-carrying Marines these days. Be cool, man. I want to say, I said I was going to read this whole thing. I'm going to interrupt it for a second. Jeff comes from an era quite a bit later than myself. I don't really know how different things were or weren't during that time. Certainly the conflict was different and the length of conflict was different. But he makes a fantastic point here, full of wisdom, and I think it's kind of what I was saying here earlier. I'm going to just read it to you again. So he said let me back up. Yes, the Marines should make some sort of deal about those whom have actually done that in which the entire Marine Corps exists to do in the first place. It makes Chesty proud and the hippies sad. I call it a win-win. That being said, be cool, Marines, be cool. Honestly, every last one of you, whether you be with Carr or not, Dakota Meyer and Kyle Carpenter are living Marine legends with medals of honor, and yet they act with more humility than some car-carrying Marines these days. Be cool, man. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here at the end, but just remember that I said that. He goes on to say, you should be proud of your car, and I don't care if you give non-car Marines a hard time about it. My brother was a Marine grunt in the late 90s, and I'll find a way to turn a conversation about cat food into a reminder to him that he didn't experience combat. He hates it, I love it, and Thanksgiving has been more fun ever since my war. I've never done that, so I can't really relate to that statement. I don't talk to other Marines. Now, he's talking about his brother. I do give my brother a hard time. I suppose if I was in the exact same situation, maybe I would handle it the same way as Jeff. But I don't go up and ask other, hey, you got a car? It's not something that even enters my mind. So they said, that said, my brother was an excellent Marine, is currently an excellent cop in a very dangerous city in America. If you give my brother my war experience, he probably tracks down Saddam Hussein and bin Laden himself. However, we'll never know because it was not in the cards for war to be during his season. He wished it were so, as many do, but he has no reason to hold his head any lower. Good word. Good that he said that. So if you're a cocky Lance Corporal, fortunate enough to have old rich men decide it was time to go to war when you were in, then brag all you want. Just be cool about it and don't be a prick. Unless it was your brother, then fair game. Okay, so he kind of clarifies that a little bit. If it's your brother, you can beat him up. Anybody else, not. Keep your mouth shut. You see, I rate a car, and thus you may think I am biased. But here is the thing that makes it interesting. I don't know if I have one. I don't know what that means. 3 weeks after returning from Iraq in 2000. Oh, okay, here we go. He's saying, I don't know if I have one. 3 weeks after returning from Iraq in 2003, my time was up and I was out of the Marines, never to put on the uniform again. Full disclosure, I tried to put on my dress blues recently, but they must have shrunk while I was sitting in my closet these past 12 years. So I can relate to all that, too. First of all, I didn't have dress blues. Jeff, you boot. I'm just kidding, man. Take it easy. Take it easy. Don't go crazy on me. When I was in, we didn't get issued dress blues. I didn't buy mine, so I never had them. I know lots of guys that did. I never did put on my uniform after I got out of the Marine Corps, and I didn't really know if I had one for a while either until I got my, I guess when I had my DD-214. I forget when I found out, actually. I guess I knew because I did wear it at one point on my uniform while I was still in. I have a photograph of me as a Lance Corporal wearing my combat action ribbon. But I like I said, I don't even know that I knew what all the ribbons meant. I had my mind set on other things. Let me finish this article. Point is, every member of my platoon rightly earned a car for our experiences in 2003 Iraq. Yet I assume because I was out when the paperwork was pushed, I have no idea if it was on my final record or not. It wasn't on my DD-214 when I got out in 2003, and I honestly don't care. Okay, maybe a little bit deep down, maybe a little, but deep down I don't care. It's not like I am the first person to have admin screw up my junk. I'll always value my actual experiences more than earthly good destined to rot after I'm gone. Well, Jeff, I know it's been a little while, a couple years since you wrote this. You're a little bit younger than me. I'm going to say it probably will matter to you at some point, and you can get a copy of your updated DD-214 that is available. At some point you might want to get it, if nothing else, to pass on to your kids. I don't know. Everybody's different. Do what you want. But then he says, I stand by my experiences and will point you to any member of my platoon to testify to it. That being said, does it seem crazy to anyone that my mundane experience of combat rates a car the same as those who stormed the streets of Tet, froze their junk off at the Chosin Reservoir, or fought for the volcanic rock of Iwo Jima? You see, someone reading this blog right now has a car and, like me, realizes that greater men than them earn that same multicolored ribbon over much harsher real estate. So if you have one, be proud, but be cool, brothers. We got the war of our time, not the one of our choosing. Semper Fi, my brother. Very well written. I feel the same way. Maybe that's part of the reason why I don't parade the combat or action ribbon like it's some kind of medal of honor, as you eloquently pointed out. I had my opportunity, or whatever you want to call it, my experience with the conflict that I found myself in. I didn't design it. I didn't even volunteer for it necessarily. Wasn't something that I planned. I ended up there by chance. And other people were involved in conflicts that were a million times harder. So what do you start comparing? I don't know. So then he says, that being said, I want to wrap this up with a message to non-car Marines. He says, stop whining. Seriously, if I find out that one of the Marines complaining about this car divide was a man who knowingly enlisted as admin in a time of war, I'm going to cry for my beloved Corps. Don't give me some crap about your high ASFAB score. Bottom line, if you wanted to take lives, you could have, but you chose otherwise. All right, he's had a little bit more to say, but I don't need to read the entire article. Let me see here. He said, yet as Marines, we serve when and where we are told. This is how he wraps it up. This is good. Good word. Yet as Marines, we serve when and where we are told. Marines who serve during peace should wear their Eagle Globe and Anchor with pride and swagger. You earned it. Consequently, I expect a Marine admin message from the Commandant to come out shortly with the following message. Be proud, respect experience, and yet be cool, all of you, because somewhere, Dan Daly with his 2 medals of honor is looking down on all of us as a bunch of non-rates. Very well written. Funny stuff, Jeff. Go check out his stuff. He's got a great blog, unprecedentedmediocrity.com. So let me wrap this up in my own way if I can. All Marines earn the title Marine and have earned their proper place supporting combat, whether or not they were involved in it or not. Whether it was in peacetime, training. I wonder if there was any drill instructor. Look, I don't care what role it was, supplying, planning, whatever. Everybody had their role. Whether it was training 2 generations of Marines prior, passing on that knowledge and that information. We all made our separate decisions, and some of us ended up where we ended up by dumb luck, which is the case with me. If you look at some of the different positions that Marines had, and you try to weigh that against the car, I started to say about the drill instructors. So Jeff is talking about his platoon with pride, as he should. I wonder if any of his drill instructors maybe trained them and then maybe got out of the Marine Corps, never earned a combat action ribbon, and they trained the platoon that then went to Iraq. Do they deserve any less respect? Of course not. Of course not. So to me, the car is something to be respected like a lot of other awards, and service for that matter. For example, the drill instructor, like I mentioned. It's something to be respected, but not every Marine serves as a drill instructor, but they are one of the most fundamentally important roles in the Marine Corps, car or no car. Wouldn't you agree with that? But to me, the car represents a sacrifice. It's a symbol of my service, one of several, and a symbol of the sacrifice I made to get it, as are some of the other rewards. Does it make me a better Marine? I don't think that that's what it is. I don't think that's what it's all about. Just like any of the other awards. Same thing. Semper Fi, thanks for listening. If you like this podcast, please like, comment, and share, or better yet, leave a review so that it'll reach more people. And remember, attitude, ambition, and character, those are your most valuable assets. Avoid temptation. Always do what's right, and always do your best. It's the key to self-discipline, confidence, and self-respect, and that's the key to a great life. Make it a great day.